Today's class, mechanics of walking. You know, lots of us walk for exercise because it's good for you. But sometimes when you do a lot of walking, sometimes you can feel it in the hips or the lower back, and that's usually from walking with improper mechanics. And so there's lots of things that can cause improper mechanics. To, you know, life is one of the biggest things that cause improper mechanics, right? We tend to sort of lean to one side, or maybe we're a little twisted, or maybe one group of muscles is stronger than the other. But in the grand scheme of things, what you want to think most about when it comes to walking is using your glutes. And oftentimes we'll walk and just rely on our hamstrings and never use our glutes. And so part of that is getting them to fire when they don't. But the other thing is your posture while you're walking. So ideally, you want to take mountain pose, right? This mountain pose that we do in yoga. You want to take this kind of alignment with you when you walk, so that when you're moving forward, you're not moving forward with your head, right? We see this a lot. This will tighten up the hamstrings. You're not moving forward from your hips in the sense that your hips are leading the way, because this will cause lower back pain. You want to keep the shoulders, head over the shoulders, over the hips, over the knees, over the ankles when you walk. Now, obviously, your legs are moving, but you generally have this plumb line as you're moving. And you want to think about using your glutes so that instead of reaching forward with the front leg, you're pushing off with the back leg. And it's that pushing off that gets the glutes to fire. Right, our glutes are hip extenders, right? I talked about in one of the earlier videos that I posted in the group, right? Glutes move the leg back, right? So that if you're using your glutes, right, to push yourself forward, it's because the leg is moving back and it's pressing the rest of you forward. And so when you don't use the glutes, the next hip extender is the hamstrings, and they're kind of secondary hip extenders. Their main job is to bend the knee, but they secondarily move the leg back. And so if you're only using the hamstrings when you're walking and you're never using the glutes, which is possible to do, you'll feel that the hamstrings are always tight. And so many of us have tight hamstrings, just generally speaking, from a lot of sitting and things like that. And so when you're tightening the hamstrings while you're walking, that eventually will cause lower back pain. And I go into a lot of detail about this in my 4-week course, which I'm launching at the end of the weekend. But just to summarize, overusing the hamstrings causes lower back pain. Underusing the glutes causes lower back pain. And so you really want to think about using the glutes while you walk. So if you're standing, right, reach one foot forward, just pick a foot, any foot, and then see if you can shift your weight from your back foot to your front foot by squeezing your right glutes, or whatever back glute, right? So it's that pressing backwards, squeezing the glutes that shifts you into your other leg. And we're just going to try that a few times. So reach one leg forward, squeeze the glute of the back leg to shift you forward onto the front foot. And you can do that a few times just to get that sensation in your body, that it's not about reaching with the front foot, because what happens when you reach with the front foot is you overuse your hip flexors. And I know for me, when I walk, if I'm starting to feel the tension in my hip flexor, I know I've stopped using my glutes. And so when you're reaching forward, right, you're trying to walk by reaching forward, you're going to overuse the hip flexors, right? And the hip flexors attach to the lower back, and that'll eventually cause lower back pain as well. So instead of reaching forward with the front foot, you're pushing off with the back foot. And so just try that times, moving in space, finding that back foot pushing you forward. And now thinking of when you push off the back foot, you're firing those glutes, and then the whole body moves forward as a unit. So that Tadasana that I was talking about a moment ago, you're pushing off the back foot to shift the whole body forward. So you're not kind of leading with the hips, right? Everything comes together. So you want to get those abdominals working to keep your core engaged, using that back foot to push yourself forward so that as you're walking, everything's coming along for the ride. So right now we're just going in slow motion to get the sense of it. And when you walk on your own, you might want to spend a few minutes just, put your hands on your butt, make sure the butt's firing, and that you're pushing off the back leg and coming to the front leg. Pushing off the back leg to shift the weight into the front leg. And we're just going to try that a few more times. Feel those glutes working back there. And if you don't feel them working, slow down even more. Actually intentionally squeeze your, as my swim coach used to say, squeeze your cheek, right? Get the glutes to fire as you push off that back leg to shift onto the front leg.